Hey everybody, this is your quick hits for chapter 11. This is all about parenting and whether or not to become a parent, what parenting looks like, those types of things. You are going to have an entire course in this. Some of you actually already took in the spring called Parent-Child Relations. We'll talk all about parenting in depth and in detail. It's a great class. So this is just really a summary of works that we'll be talking more in depth about there. So some things that I want you to focus on, definitely focus on the benefits and costs of having children. Um, we become parents in a number of different ways, whether it's through just natural birth or surrogacy or adoption or even caring for other people's children, sometimes through remarriage and step parenting. But we most commonly become parents through birth, and there's some benefits to having children. They bring some great joy into our lives and other benefits, but there are also some costs of money, costs of time, those types of things. Make sure that you're reading through and know the benefits and some of the costs of having children. Understand what child-free by choice means. We talked about in earlier chapters where more and more people are being single for their lifetime, while more and more people are choosing to be child-free for their lifetime as well. And in fact, we've seen the rate of children per household going down because people are just having less children, and many people are choosing not to have children, and that's okay, right? You need to know about things like infertility. Infertility is really, we define it as the inability to get pregnant after trying for at least 12 months and not succeeding in that. Know what infertility is, know how infertility can cause stress in individuals and in a marriage relationship or a partnered relationship among couples that are trying to get pregnant. Think about reactions to infertility, and know about some infertility treatment. There are infertility drugs. There's also things like artificial insemination or in vitro fertilization can be used to attain pregnancy when the natural means either aren't working or aren't available. Also, know about abortion, what it is, ending a pregnancy early. Know the trends of abortion, who is having those abortions and why it might be controversial. We will get into abortion in depth in your human sexuality class. When you take that, we'll talk more about that issue and trends and things in that class. But in general, just know some things for chapter 11 here. Know about adoption. Adopting a child is something that is prominent. Know what it is. Know the difference between an open and a closed adoption. Know what a semi-open adoption is. Know what international adoptions are, and be able to talk about the benefits and costs of adopting a child as well. Lots of benefits, but also it comes with some costs as well. Be able to talk about the expectations that people have as parents, what they think being a parent is going to be like versus the realities of being a parent, and how we transition into different roles. Understand the terms role overload, role conflict, and role strain. Role overload, role conflict, and role strain. Role overload is feeling overwhelmed by multiple commitments. Role conflict, frustrations and uncertainties that someone experiences with expectations of two or more roles are incompatible. So maybe role of employer or employee and role of parent. Incompatible. We're kind of coming into that this year with the COVID stuff. Lisa and I both work, and so our role our role of employees and having to have a job and needing that income is coming into conflict with our role as parent, because our children are going to have to be home at least 3 days a week. And how do we balance all of that out, right? So that can cause strain there. Can cause some conflict between those two roles. And then role strain are the conflicts that someone feels with in a certain role. So when we have unrealistic expectations of what parenting is going to be like, and then reality hits, and we maybe struggle with that. So for an example, a role strain that I have within my role as daddy was my expectation of what it would be like to have a son, but then reality was that I hadn't expected a son who would have Down syndrome and be dealing with a developmental disability. And so there are many times where reality doesn't quite meet what I had in my mind beforehand of that, what that expectation was. And so there are conflicts in me, because the role just the expectations that I had just weren't unrealistic. And other things might be, set high parenting standards or increase responsibility. Those types of things can cause conflict within us, within one role. So no role overload, role conflict, and role strain. Be able to talk about the differences between expectation and reality in parenting. Also, just briefly be able to talk about some of the child development theories when it comes to parenting and how we rear our children. Mead's theory of the social self is one to know in general. Be able to talk a little bit about Piaget's cognitive developmental theory, Erikson's psychosocial theory. If you guys have taken developmental psych, that's all that class is Piaget and Erikson. And Brenner's bioecological theory, be able to talk a little bit about that as well. You don't need to be theoretical experts on that. Again, just look for keywords and be able to talk very briefly about those types of things. No parenting styles: authoritarian, permissive, authoritative, and uninvolved or neglectful. Be able to talk about what each of those are and what a parent might look like who is an authoritarian parent or an authoritative parent, et cetera, et cetera. And be able to talk about discipline as well. What types of discipline do we engage in? Verbal, corporal. Talk about corporal punishment and whether it works as spanking a legit tool or not. We get into that in parent-child as well. And then, like we do with just about everything, be able to talk about how parenting differs from family type to family type, whether we're talking about race and ethnicity or culture or social class or even sexual orientation. How might parenting look in different family types? There similarities, are there differences there? And then also just know a little bit about parenting throughout life, and how we parent at different age levels of our children, from infants to toddlers to children to teenagers to even adults, and then parenting even in late life. The role of parent is one that we don't just shed off easily. And that, my friends, is your Chapter 11 Quick Hit.